Today we're going to go over some of the installation tips for installing a Wheelskin steering wheel cover. The first thing we can do when we get the package is to open the top of the box, and this is where the needle and thread are stored. There will be a written instruction in the box of how to do the installation, but we will go over those points today in the video. There's a couple options you can buy with a Wheelskin steering wheel cover. We're going to install a single color black leather steering wheel cover today, but there is also an option of doing a Eurotone, which is a two-color steering wheel cover. You can choose the color for the sides and another color for the top and bottom. When you're doing this, you will end up with a cover that has 4 seams in the steering wheel. The great thing about the Wheelskin steering wheel cover is they've turned over the leather, so you're stitching through a hole that is double reinforced. It has a reinforcing cord along the side, and then you're going through 2 pieces of leather. I'll try to give you a close-up of this. The other option that is available, and you can do this with a single color or a 2-color wheel cover, is to perforate the leather. The perforations do not go all the way through the leather, they are only in the surface, which doesn't take away from the strength, so you can still stitch this on and have a good snug fit. And we'll give you a close-up of these perforations also. Okay, we're ready to get started now. We're gonna give you the tips on the best way to start the stitching process, how to work around the spokes, and then how to tie out the knot at the very end. Okay, so we're gonna unwind the string, and we're going to pull some of the stretch out of it. So once it's unwound, turn your foot, give it a good strong tug up. Get the stretch out, make it better. Okay, to start with, we're going to put the seam at the very bottom. I usually hold it with my knee, then you can stretch it around. It should be fairly snug. Stretch it around, do your line up, make sure you're right in the middle. And you need to roll the cover so it wants to lay naturally around where the spoke areas are, which will sometimes be almost 3/4 of the way rolled in. So that's a good start there. Now we're going to, the first stitch we do, I usually start 3 holes over from the seam. There's no sense starting and stopping at the seam. There's too much going on there. So the very first stitch we do will be from the inside, and we'll pull it through. 4 inches of string. The second stitch we do will be coming from behind, counting those 3 holes over, pulling it through. The goal is when we're done, this stitch will end up in between the 2 pieces of leather, so when we tie it off, it will be completely unseen and unfelt. So once again, our goal here is to have the Wheelskin, the steering wheel cover, rotated to such a fashion that when we come over the spoke, it will want to lay in, which sometimes requires a little rotation to pull it into the direction of or the angle of the spoke, and it will vary on different cars, but this particular one, this is what we're going for. It's kind of laying in, wanting to form around that spoke. As we come up to the spoke, the last stitch we do will end up being a double stitch, so it'll lock it in tight. This is the last stitch here, so we'll bring this through the same hole we just went through. Nice firm tug, and that stitch locks it in. It won't back off now, so we can work over the top of the spoke. We're not going to be using the back side of the steering wheel anymore. Go just across these top holes. When we get to the far end of the spoke, there again we'll do a double stitch to lock it down when we grab the back side of the wheel cover. A couple more stitches in here. If you have a spoke that's really wide, like some cars do nowadays, I'll lay a little bit of double-sided tape in here to train it to go down. This spoke is definitely not so big we have to worry about that. Some of the vehicles, a little double-sided tape there can go a long ways. So we're going through the front, through the back and the front the first time. We're going to do the same thing, same hole. Pull this down, nice lock in here. Now we can get into our rhythm again of just going from back to front. Okay, we've just rotated the wheel. The main thing I want to point out here is, like I was saying before, you need to go back to front on your stitching. Once you rotate the wheel, you have this urge to start going from the front to the back. If you do that, your stitches go from this angle to this angle and it won't look right. So just say to yourself, back to front, catch the back through the front, and all of your stitches will look uniform. Snug it up as you go. Just get back into your rhythm of back to front. Okay, we're approaching the one seam we have in this wheel cover. When I come to a seam, I typically will do another double stitch. The leather here is like double reinforced. It's sewn underneath and then stitched, so it's the hardest part to pull it in together. If you had a two-color steering wheel cover or the Eurotone, you'll have 4 seams, and I recommend, as long as the seam doesn't fall right where the spoke is, if you can go through the same hole twice, you'll pull it in around that seam nice and snug. And that's the other reason why we didn't start our stitching right at this location. There's just too much going on. We'll tie off over here the 3 holes over that we started from. Okay, so now we're coming up to the final step, which is the tie off. So, pull this tight. My last stitch from the back will come through. I will come up in between the 2 pieces of leather. So as I pull this up, I can do my knot, and it will be in between. Try to get a close-up of this. Hopefully you'll see it on the video, but I'm just going to do a nice simple knot. Put another one in. Okay, and now we'll be able to cut these pieces off and tuck them back underneath so there's no way it can ever come undone. Okay, we've cut both pieces of our string down to a couple of inches. We've tied our knot. Now we're just going to tuck in the ends, lace them back through a couple of stitches. They can't go anywhere. Now that that's laced through, we can cut it off flush, being careful to cut away from all your stitching and your leather. Okay, we've just finished installing the leather steering wheel cover. We hope our tips have given you some insight on what our product is all about.